ask me anything about politics. This is the show where you can ask any question about politics that you like, and you will get a good faith answer. There's no fighting here, there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. It is just good faith answers to all good faith questions. And everyone is welcome, no matter what part of the political spectrum you are on. You could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican, you could be something in the middle, you could be something on the outskirts. What's up, D. Scott? Good to see you again. You could be a political junkie, you could be a political novice. Everybody is welcome here. There's no such thing as a dumb question. If I don't know something, I will let you know that I don't know it. I will never pretend to know something that I don't know. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. What's up, Muzz King? Good to see you again. What's up, JP? Good to see you again. So yeah, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. I know politics can be really intimidating because of how much misinformation and propaganda there is out there. John868 says, are your energy costs down? No, opposite. They are up. So yeah, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat. All good faith questions will get a good faith answer. Sometimes when the chat's really popping off, then I can't guarantee that everyone will get an answer. It becomes sort of a lottery at that point. But when things are slow, I'll talk to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, something in between, or something on the outskirts. I am happy to engage with all good faith discussions in politics. But if you just have a question about something simple, you don't know things about politics because it's really difficult to get into it, and it can feel like trying to learn a new language, this is the place where you can ask all of those questions. Hello back, Enriquez. Oceanaholic says, can you explain why he sees the tanker? So there's the real reason, and then there's his explanation for it. And the explanation has not been figured out yet. Like, he was asked in an interview recently, like, why'd you take the tanker? And he was like, oh, I guess we have a tanker now. John Selfridge, good to see you again. So yeah, the real reason is probably a couple of things. It's probably he wants the oil. The entire part of the reason why he is instigating a war with Venezuela is so that we can take their resources and he can make his, fossil fuel buddies a lot more richer. He also wants to start a war with Venezuela. And so stealing a tanker from Venezuela is, escalatory. And so he is hoping that Venezuela will do some more shit. We're basically bullying Venezuela into doing something to us where we can justify sending in troops to Venezuela, doing a regime change war, stealing their oil. It's fucking, it's Iraq, if it's Afghanistan, it's all that shit all over again, It's so fucking stupid. Okay, Oceanholic says, we are bullies now. I mean, America is, and we have been a lot in the past. But we have the option to vote for better people going forward, and I hope that people will. And none to get cut. Anon to get cut says, what do you feel about CIA's involvement in the Black community? So I'm definitely not an expert in this. I am confident that it happened. I am confident that the CIA fucked with Black communities in the past in various ways. Experimental drug trials, infusions of crack cocaine, shit like that. I haven't read too much about it. I know that they did a lot of shitty things. So I can't speak more about that just because I don't have any other specifics. I don't think that it is uncontroversial to say that the CIA has a real mixed history of activity, both foreign and domestic. All right, JP says the messaging about Venezuela is the same as Iraq 20 years ago. He earned the FIFA this year. That's very funny, JP. John, I did not see all of Kristi Noem's testimony. I did just see a clip. I don't know who it was that was questioning her, basically saying, like, you deported this veteran, you deported this veteran's wife for you've imprisoned this veteran's wife for no fucking reason. Will you take a look at their case and, potentially either bring them back to this country or release this dude's fucking wife that's in jail for no fucking reason, Okay, Apple Pie says, is it necessary for America to be allies with Israel? I don't think so. Overflow says, is Trump our first gay/bi president? Most likely not. Wherever on the sexuality spectrum Trump is, we've had gayer presidents in the past without question. Okay, Granola Guy says thoughts on communist politicians desiring to let in migrants who don't have communist ideals. So, Granola Guy, just to make sure that we're talking the same language here. There's no communists in American government currently, and as far as I know, there's no like mainstream politicians who are self-described communists. So, I mean, we're talking about a hypothetical situation here, right? Where a communist politician is asking for, communist, asking for migrants to come to their country who are maybe not friendly to the communist agenda. Um, I think that America is a big tent country. We're a melting pot. And so I'm sure that whatever left leaning politician you think is communist leaning, Granola Guy, I'm sure that their intention is not to invite people into the country who only agree with them. So, yeah, I think that you can have the ideals of being a country that is friendly to migrants, a Christ like country that is friendly to migrants, love thy neighbor as yourself, treat the foreigner as a member of your family. That's all Bible shit. So yeah, and there's certain things that people who come to this country are going to have to agree with, but as far as like what their political ideology is, that I believe falls under freedom of speech. Okay, Captain Queef says the president of the United States isn't real. I mean, tell that to the people who are sitting in ICE detention facilities. Nathan says James Talarico needs to be a presidential contender, either him or Bashir. I mean, I think those guys are both great. I don't know if they necessarily need to run for president immediately, but I think that would be cool if they're ever president. They both seem like good guys to me. Thank you, Joe Padilla and Musking, for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Pyro369 says, is the regime eroding pluralism? Can we expect the midterms to happen? So yes, 100% we can expect the midterms to happen. Now, I do not have a lot of faith in Donald Trump or his Republican Party acolytes not doing things to try to either do massive voter suppression, massive voter intimidation, or just straight up cancel the 2026 election, the midterms in 26. But they don't have the power to do that if we, the people, do not allow them to do that. And so we do the same things that we always do: political pressure on politicians and corporations, boycotting, protesting, striking, etc. And this stuff has worked in the very recent past. We have had a bunch of elections that have gone well for the Democrats, where a lot of people have been saying like, oh, it's game over, like they've already captured all the electoral systems, etc. So yeah, so long as we keep it up, so long as we keep doing the work, then 100% we will have midterm elections. All right, John says, can't stick around today. Major surgery. All right, well, good luck with your wife's major surgery. Thank you for answering. Thank you for asking questions, John. I really appreciate that. And to you, Rock, as well. All right, back to the TikTok questions. Alex Lehman says, who do you think was at fault for the government shutdown? That's a really good question, Alex. So I guess it would be, I don't think that it's one party's fault for the shutdown, because you kind of need two to tango, The Republican Party wanted to fund the government. The Democratic Party said, okay, but we have some concerns. We have some issues. The Republican Party said, no, we are not negotiating with you. And then the Democrats were like, okay, well, in that case, we're not going to sign on to your funding plan. And then the funding was shut down and the government was shut down. I think it's important, though, is to look at what each party was trying to accomplish. And so the Democratic Party shut down the country because they were worried about everybody's healthcare costs going up. And so they were trying to get an extension for the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The Republican Party didn't want to do that. They didn't care about everybody's healthcare costs going up, which is hilarious because now they seem to care a lot, knowing that it is politically damaging to them. So yeah, not only that, but the Republican Party was involved in trying to increase the suffering of American citizens in order to put more leverage on the Democratic Party to reopen the government. So not only were the Republicans cool with Americans suffering now and later, because later is when the healthcare prices go up, but also they were like, we're going to increase the suffering so that you guys will end the shutdown. So yeah, that is, I think, important to keep in mind, that the motivations of the Democratic Party were to try to help ease the cost of living crisis, and the Republican Party was just trying to make it worse. Dean says, why does Trump want boots on the ground in South America? It's a really good question, Dean. It's like there's a bunch of different motivations. Number one, it falls under the sort of like racist culture war umbrella of everybody south of the border is worse than us, and so we should be able to do whatever we want to them, murder them in the ocean, steal their oil, etc. There's also a good scapegoat in the drugs that come from South America, where everybody can kind of agree, like, oh yeah, fentanyl's bad and unregulated controlled substances is bad in this country. And so Donald Trump is going to take that to its maximalist degree and say, okay, well, I guess then you won't mind if we send the military into Colombia and Venezuela and potentially Mexico. There's that. There's pressure from the military industrial complex. Like Raytheon's going to want their billions of dollars in government contracts, and so they're going to be putting pressure on Trump and Republicans to do some kind of war where they can get paid. I think Stephen Miller and Trump will think that being in war will give them more powers to do authoritarian shit here in America. And there's more motivations there. Like, Donald Trump's fossil fuel buddies are thirsty for all the oil that's in Venezuela. There's a whole bunch of really shitty motivations. Absolutely none of them have to do with making life better for the American people. Like, none of the things that I described have anything to do with helping us, America. Okay, let's see here. Angel Face, Detective Face, Angel Face. No, it's because the intelligence community doesn't want to acknowledge SoCal's FTO DTOs. I don't know what that means. Scott Clara says, have tried to unalive the Affordable Care Act ever since its inception. That is accurate. Christian Robinson says, you just lied. That's why. What did I lie about? Christian, let me know. Genius. Chud Jack says, Israel? Question mark. What would you like to know about it? Apple Pie says, do you think the Dems will take the House? Statistically, it's likely, but we can't just rest on our laurels and assume it's going to happen. We need to do the work because the Republican Party is going to do a lot of lying and cheating and fuckery to try to steal the election in 2026. Sane says, hi, I heard USA wants to invade a country. True or not true? The America does not. Donald Trump and the Republican Party do. Okay. Christian says, everything that just came out of your mouth. Well, that's awfully sus, Christian, that you say I'm lying, but you can't point to a specific lie. All right. It's Eric says, yep, look into what's happening with CNN. I don't know what that means. Okay. Shine Boy says, who get the next title shot? I don't know who those people are. Let's see here. Angel face emoji says he's trying. Hollywood struggles to let Washington run the nation ethically because I don't know what the rest of that question is. And also, I'm not really sure if I agree with this stuff here. Genius asked me my feelings on Israel. The people that are living in Israel, most of them are just regular ass people who want to live their lives without, war or G-side or anything like that. The government in Israel is really shitty, though. Like, Netanyahu's a far-right wing guy, and he's formed an alliance with people that are further to the right than him so that he can stay in power. He likes being in power, keeps him out of prison. He is artificially maintaining this, political tensions with his surrounding countries so that he can stay in power, so there can't be another election. It is the responsibility of him and his coalition government in Israel. They are the ones that are guilty for war crimes and genocide against the people of Palestine, not just the citizens of Israel. D. Benstone says, what's the worst ism out there? Probably fascism, I would say. Rosalie says, are you left, right, or centrist? I'm a progressive Democrat. I guess you'd say that's left. Let's see here. Angel face emoji says, what are your ethical boundaries? Can you be more specific? Saying says, not American, how can one party invade a country? Because they currently have total political control over the American government. They have both branches of Congress. They have the White House. And one could argue that they have infiltrated the judiciary, where we are supposed to have a balance of power, shared power with checks and balances, so that one person does not get to decide to invade South America. Right now, the Republican Party is sort of like fascist curious. Like they're not doing their job of holding Trump accountable and being a check on his power. They're basically just letting him do whatever he wants. Supreme Court is kind of doing the same thing. Like they are issuing rulings which are giving Trump more power to do the shitty things that he wants to do. And I tried to warn everybody that this shit was going to happen. That's why I was telling everybody to vote for Democrats and Kamala Harris. Nobody listened to me for some fucking reason. So now we're in the place that we're at. Okay, let's see here. Destiny says, how does impeachment works and why Trump hasn't been impeached this term when he was in the last? Excellent question, Destiny. So impeachment is the process by which Congress can either kind of like indict and then potentially remove from office the president of the United States. It starts in the House, and all you need is a majority in order to impeach the presidents in the House. But crucially, you also need the majority just even to bring it up for a vote. So the reason why he hasn't been impeached already is not because he has not done impeachable things, wildly impeachable things, many wildly impeachable things. It's because Republicans control Congress. And the Republican Party has made it clear for the last, 25 years that their only interest is in more money and power for themselves and their buddies. So they don't really give a shit if Donald Trump commits a crime. They're going to keep him in power because it's better for them. It's party over country. And so, yeah, I don't think that you should vote for a political party that does that shit. Say what you want about the Democratic Party, but if their president did this shit, they would vote to impeach him. What you want are politicians that are willing to impeach people in their own party if they think they deserve it. I guarantee you that most of the Republicans in Congress right now believe that Donald Trump has done wildly impeachable things, but they're not voting for impeachment because number one, they're scared of Donald Trump, they're scared of repercussions, or number two, they like what he's doing and they're down with his project. Okay, John Abbott, good to see you again. Says, I'm seeing stuff saying that Greg Abbott has claimed he'll leave politics if Crockett gets elected to the Senate. Is that a good reason to vote for Crockett or a great reason to vote for Crockett? Yeah, honestly, that puts me a little bit more in her camp. I'm kind of 50-50 on both of them. Like, I think both are great choices. I kind of lean a little bit more Tallarico, but if we can get rid of Greg Abbott, if Crockett gets elected, then man, she's got my votes. But also, these people, they make these claims all the time. Rush Limbaugh said he was going to move to Costa Rica if Obama won. Tucker Carlson said he was going to move if Biden won, and they never do. They're liars. And millionaires and billionaires say that they're going to leave cities when progressive mayors get elected, and then they fucking never do. So these people are liars, guys. Billionaires, Republicans, they're all liars. Okay, Lil Will says, do you like when Trump whispers? I don't like when he does anything. Let's see here. 1974, Wagon says, Republicans now wouldn't have impeached Nixon. I mean, the Nixon impeachment is a great example of that. Nixon called in whoever was the vote whipper for the Republican Senate at the time and asked, if we have a trial in the Senate, do you think I'm getting impeached? And that Republican said, you might have 2 votes in the Senate from Republicans, Mr. President, and mine is not one of them. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's not the Republican Party that exists today. And that is one of a billion reasons why no human being should vote for the Republican Party until they fucking end this fuckery. Star Trek fan for life. Thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. And here comes the third. Okay, Ron says, should Bears fans be taxed for constantly thinking they can beat the Packers? That's not the kind of politics that I know too much about, unfortunately. Sane says, which big decisions should both parties agree? Can you be a little more specific? I'm not really sure what you mean by that question, Sanes. So it's like, if there's something that you agree on, I guess the big thing that the party should agree on is just like what's happening. Like right now, there's a disagreement just on what the reality of the situation is, as opposed to how to fix the problems. The Trump administration is hiding data about the economy and the job market because it is detrimental to him and his political agenda. That is a problem. It is a problem that the Republican Party is out there saying cost of living is not going up. Oh, let's see here. I just got reported for misinformation. which is obviously bullshit because everything that I'm saying here is accurate. So what I'm going to do, because we are only 20 minutes in, is I'm going to restart my TikTok live stream because they no longer give me the ability to appeal these decisions. And so hopefully you guys will all come back. Just, don't go nowhere. We're just going to pause for a hot second, then come right back, everybody. I will see you in seconds. Thank you to Marie for helping me reach my gift goal before I log off and then log back in. Within one heart, you are the GOAT. All right, we're literally popping off and then popping right back in, guys. See you in seconds. Okay. Okay, we are back. Everybody, we are back on TikTok. Hopefully y'all are coming back to the live stream. Let's see here. All right, I already got those. What's up, Willie? Good to see you again. I got to be quicker on the trigger with blogging people because otherwise they report my channel for bullshit. So, Lauren, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat, everybody. I am here to answer all of your questions about politics, regardless of how simple or complicated they might be. Everybody is welcome here, Republicans, Democrats, everything in between and on the outskirts. This is not for fighting. This is not for roasting. This is not for debating. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Sane says, I meant with big decisions must both countries agree, e.g. waging war. I mean, you have a country like Ukraine that was invaded by Russia, and they are at war because they did not agree to just be invaded and have their country taken over by Russia. So I guess, yeah, you either agree to go to war or you get invaded. Those are the only two options, I think. Lindsay Reed says, Rubio and the font debacle. Thoughts so ableist. It seems like kind of culture war stuff. It just seems like a real waste of time and energy where, the government discovered that a certain font was better for people with disabilities to read. So they kind of made a soft judgment to start switching everything over to that font. And Rubio just switched it back. I don't think that Rubio really gives a shit, but I think that Rubio wants to have a political career after Trump. And so he's trying to do some of the culture war, anti-DEI, shooting ourselves in our own fucking feet for no fucking reason shit, Thelma says, Democratic nominee in 2028. I don't really know who it's going to be. Nobody does. And let's focus on 26. We got midterms coming up in 26. Trayla says, public parks pass now pissed on by fucking Trump. No free vets or MLK Day free on Trump's birthday. Yeah, it's pretty stupid. It is politicization of our national parks, it's illegal and also it's stupid. It's Mordo says, I know it's an illogical question, but I think it's an interesting thing. If we ever have a Republican with some liberal views, do you think it will be a good option? So it's Mordo. It's a really good question, but I think we need to start getting into the specifics of what that even means. What is a Republican with liberal views? What are their views that make them Republican? But what are their views that make them also liberal? From what I can tell, the Republican Party has no good policy proposals. They're not good on any of the issues. So, let's say you get the best, most LGBTQ friendly Republican, they're still going to do fucking trickle down economics, which is just going to make, cost of living crisis even worse, income inequality even worse, money in government even worse. So it's yeah, I'm still going Democrat in that situation, All right, New Gavo says, most Republicans are pretty liberal. I haven't fucking seen it. Not in the way they're voting, not in the way they're campaigning, not in the shit that they're saying or doing. Rizzo says, nobody wants substandard universal government health care provided by the lowest bidders. I want universal government health care, Rizzo. It would be better than what we currently have and less expensive. So what's the ish? Madalala says, what do you think of the supposed white genocide in South Africa? I mean, it's been debunked time and time again, but the Trump administration, they are using that as an excuse, as a talking point to justify their racist immigration program, where if you are rich or you are white, we will make it very easy for you to be a migrant coming to this country and potentially become a citizen. If you are a brown person, regardless of what country you are from, you're a threat and you gotta go. It's so fucking stupid. Oh, okay. Joe Tough Guy says, I'm going to defecate in public on Trump's birthday. I think that's illegal, so I'm not going to advocate for that. But I guess I can't stop you. Kingston, never apologize, my guy. You're able to come here whenever you like. MAGA never has good policies. The majority of their policies is blocking immigration, trying to silence dissent, like using ICE to spy on civilians who don't agree with their side of the aisle. That is accurate, Kingston. Sane says, why is it that righteous look at evidence which confirms their bias, then ignore the one that don't? So Sanes, that's everybody. Everybody loves things that confirm their prior opinions. The difference is, like, are you the kind of person that will challenge your own priors, with great regularity to make sure that you're not full of shit? Or do you just live in that? Do you just live in that stew? And I would love to say that there are more people on the right that don't challenge their priors than there are people on the left, but I honestly don't know what those numbers are. Okay, let's see here. Jeffrey Rickerson says the saying, we on someone's grave will become literal when Donald Trump is gone. Yeah, they're going to have some massive fucking, I don't know, urine shields or something, on his gravesite. Aya Madalala says, do you think Stephen A. Smith is serious about running in 28? I don't know. He's the basketball guy, right? He's a coach or something? I forget. Yeah, I don't think that we should be. I think anybody can be president, but I think that if you want to be president, you should maybe do some stuff first. Like, I don't think that just being a famous or rich person qualifies as enough qualifications. Okay, Lauren says, I've made over 1,000 calls. Can't find list or number of deported immigrants anywhere. How do we find them? That's a really good question, Lauren, and I honestly don't have an answer for you. Like, ICE and the Trump administration are notoriously obstructionist, I would say. They are not, transparent at all. And so where some reporting on this has come out, like we saw how many detainees were in Alligator Auschwitz for a little while, and then some of those numbers didn't match up. And so then people were reporting like ICE has lost over 1,000 people. And that story has not been confirmed or denied because ICE won't give them like a settled list. People are getting either disappeared on purpose or through incompetence in the Trump administration. And yeah, it is part of, it is one of a million reasons why we need to be voting for Democrats going forward. Wax Nightmare says, when did you become such a Democrat shill? I'm not a Democrat shill, Wax Nightmares. And then you also said Trump is a criminal. So it sounds like we agree about Trump, but you think, I guess you think that I'm too much of a centrist Democrat or something? Because I'm happy to engage on the substance, man, but I would not consider myself a Democratic shill or even a centrist. Okay, Max Pakala says, do you think our politicians live up to campaign promises? There is obviously a gulf, and that gulf is shorter or wider depending on which politician you're talking about, between what's promised in elections and what is delivered on afterwards. And I think that that's not a great metric by which to judge our politicians because, there are complications in politics. If you don't have enough of your own party in Congress, and even if you do, sometimes those people in that party disagree with you, then maybe you can't necessarily get everything accomplished that you want to accomplish. And there's a weird dichotomy happening between people that say, don't promise me things that you can't deliver, and people saying, like, why aren't you exciting your base with the potential of what our country could be? And so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for the Democratic Party. For, whatever fucking reason, we never seem to hold the Republican Party up to these exact same standards. So, yeah, yeah, it's definitely not, they don't have a great track record, politicians in general. But again, I think we need to be aware of when that specific rhetoric is getting weaponized against one specific political party. And thank you, Dan Blackroyd and Musking, for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. Let's see here. Zach says, Democrats never get anything done, LOL. That's not true, Zach. Would you like me to tell you a bunch of things that Democrats have got done? Or are you just here to spread misinformation? Let me know in the chat. Miguel of the Sky People says, you do a lot of we don't do great, but they are worse rhetoric. I would disagree with that, Miguel. I don't say that the Democratic Party doesn't do great, but they are worse. I think the Democratic Party has done a lot of truly great and transformative things. There are Democrats who have made mistakes. The party has made mistakes, but it really is that the Democratic Party is good or okay, and the Republican Party is really, really bad. So it's not just a lesser of two evils thing. It is a thing that could be better and a thing that literally couldn't be worse. Okay, Zach says Obama violated the Constitution with the NSA. What a weird thing to say. All right, you're out of here, buddy. I do not care for people spreading misinformation in my live stream. Misty Lane, great to see you again, says, an ICE insider asked me to ask you, do you know of a location where you can steal people's family members and people won't care? No, I'm not. I ain't saying shit. That's for darn sure. Okay, New Gav says, yeah, making our deficits impossible to pay. Who do you think? Who do you think is making our deficits impossible to pay? Democrats think boys can be girls. All right, congratulations, you are out of here. Okay, Stewie says, screw ICE. I agree. Sane says, why doesn't the USA have a parliament? Where I'm from, we have one. I don't know. I think we just did Congress instead. Polly Bear says, do you think term limits would help? And if so, will we see them in the next 20 years? I do like term limits as a policy, both for people in Congress and also for judges. I don't really truck with lifetime appointments, any longer now that life expectancy is so much longer than it used to be. And the only thing that is stopping us from having it immediately is people voting for politicians that will do it. The Republican Party is not going to do that. So if that is something that you want, then people have to vote for Democrats. Sophia, great to see you again. What is your opinion on Candace Owens? Candace Owens is, best case scenario, she is a liar and a political hack who is doing this for the money. Worst case scenario, she has some real mental health issues because she is making claims that are absolutely fucking bananas. She's got weird delusions of persecution and conspiracy and stuff like that. She's cuckoo's bananas. Andrew Managar says, what are your credentials of internals of politicals workings? I mean, I just read a lot. I read a lot of the news. I read a lot of nonfiction about politics. So you don't have to take the things that I'm saying as gospel. You can double check everything that I'm saying, and everybody should be double checking everything they see on social media. Abdul says, why MAGA Republicans always blaming Obama for division in America? Because he is a black man, and it's really easy to blame people that are black for a certain, section of the American populace. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the TikTok comments because I got a little bit behind. So apologies if I skipped your question. 3D Plinter says, have you heard of Vladimir Mayakovsky? No, I have not. Sham says, answer my question. Are political all just one party? Prove me wrong. No, all politics is not just one party. I will happily tell you more about that, Sham. Sky says, everyone pay attention. This guy watches real news. I don't watch any news. I read the news. Sophia says, Jared, Sophia's in love with you. No, she's not. She's not. I'm just a fella, and boss, also, I'm taken, everybody. So, Steph says, fucking Dem. And then he put an accent on the E, which makes me think, not from this country? Maybe one of those foreign bots we keep on hearing so many things about? Not showing my pretty face says, thoughts on MTG's sudden shift against Trump? I'm not really sure what the motivation is, but, she hasn't made amends for the crazy shit that she's done in the past. So I don't really buy a lot of the things that she's saying about it. I do believe that she's being harassed and intimidated by the MAGA base since she has flipped. And I don't think that anybody should have to suffer that kind of, harassment and intimidation. But I also don't believe that she suddenly has a conscience and she suddenly believes in taking down the political rhetoric. Luca says, do you think socialism could work in the USA? Socialism is currently working in the USA. Socialism is just government-run programs. We pay taxes into these programs. The programs help, all of our citizens. That's socialism. The army is socialism. Public schools is socialism. Paved roads is socialism. When we're talking about socialized medicine, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about government-run medicine as opposed to private industry-run medicine. Garu says, left or right? I am a progressive Democrat. Zava says, why do politicians hate immigrants? Not all politicians hate immigrants. Some politicians like to use immigrants as scapegoats for problems that are caused by the billionaire class. Andrew Miniger says, what are your thoughts on these shifts away from traditional political party roles to something new? You know, I think it's probably related to a couple of things. The unregulated internet and social media, I think, has created a real diversity of opinion. And people are sort of like able to just engage with people that agree with their one very specific political ideology. And so now we have a whole bunch more organized, tiny groups of people who are exerting political force in America. And so that is kind of like creating weird new dynamics within parties, outside of parties, during elections, etc. But yeah, I think it's a massive just like sea change, just the way that the internet and social media has affected all of our noodles and all of our systems and checks and balances. So, things are just really up in the air. We're in the Wild West era of American politics. Let's see here. Garu says, you're progressive, so that means you're part of the problem. Are you taken by another guy too? LOL. Garu, I am married. The only person that I have time to engage in sexual activity with, besides my wife, is your mom. Paul Nunya says, thoughts on Australia banning all social media for teens under the age of 18, I believe. I actually think it's 16, Paul. And I think it's a great policy. And I think that's across the aisle, people are talking about doing that here. I think people are about it. Okay, Kingston says, I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Excellent reference. Misty Lane says, how do you find the time to fuck so many people's moms? Well, I'm off the road right now while my wife is pregnant, so if I was on the road, I might not have the same time. Okay, PD Vet says, do you agree with mass deportations? I came here the legal way from Europe. I don't agree with mass deportations, but it's kind of like weird because what does that word even mean? Like, is there a certain number of people that need to get deported to equal mass deportations? If mass deportations is just what Trump and ICE are doing right now, then I could not be more against it. If we had a massive group of people who were here illegally, who were doing terrible crimes, and deporting all of them at the same time would technically qualify as mass deportations, I'd be fine with that. But right now, mass deportations is just deportations for deportation's sake. It's not actually trying to solve a problem. It is not deporting the worst of the worst. It is just, we want to deport this many brown people every single week, so we're just going to do it, And yeah, that's not good policy in my opinion. Missy Lane says, do the Gen Z straw hat protests scare you? I'm not really sure what that is, Misty Lane. What do you think of people who say they know definitively what happens next in American politics? I mean, it's people trying to get clicks, they're trying to get clicks. They're trying to get relevance. People like being told predictions because it will either confirm their priors or give them an out for doing any kind of political activism or volunteering. Yeah, and we never seem to hold people accountable for their predictions that are wrong. So, doesn't really seem like the move, in my opinion. Abdul says, how much Trump added to the deficit so far? It's a lot. I don't know the exact number, but 23% of the entire deficit, I believe, is just Donald Trump. Real Benda says, how likely will Congress switch control in both houses come midterms next year? House seems very likely. Senate seems less likely. But again, it's like, this is a snapshot in time. We are not, nothing is certain. If you want Democrats to win in Congress in the midterms, do some work. All right. Satan says, are you religious? I am not religious. But I'm not like fully a materialist where I just believe in science and atoms and stuff like that. I am open to the idea that there are more things between heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophies. Tara says, all vote in primary and midterms. Do not get comfortable, go vote. I am with you, Tara. Terry Moore says, if you don't know the difference between debt and deficit, you're not that sharp. I mean, just don't call names, Terry Moore. People make mistakes all the time. I get Medicare and Medicaid confused. So does Donald Trump. Like maybe we can give people a little bit of fucking grace when they're saying 1,000 words a minute on their live stream. Short says, in what seat do you think AOC is most useful for Americans? If I could choose, I would tell her to take over Chuck Schumer's Senate seat, but it really is up to her. It seems like she's polling really well for president right now. I don't know how effective that's going to be with America really worried about another woman of color being able to be elected in this country. Like, electability is something that people on the left really fret about, and so I can see people voting for a Chris Murphy over an AOC, not because they like Chris Murphy better, but just because he's a white guy and they're worried that America is too racist and misogynistic, to elect a non-white guy. Penis producer says, who would win, Ukraine war-wise? It's a hard question to answer. Ukraine definitely has a harder goal here in just defending their borders from Russia. They are much less powerful, and they have much less massive military than Russia. They are getting assisted obviously by Europe and by America. So right now it's kind of a stalemate. I don't know if there's any way for Russia to lose technically, unless Vladimir Putin dies or gets replaced. I think he's just going to keep on, ramming his head against the wall because he doesn't really give a shit. He doesn't really give a shit about decimating his own military or sending his own citizens into a meat grinder. Like, it doesn't really seem like there's any end to this. Either Ukraine gets annexed and they become guerrilla warriors trying to exercise Russian occupation, or they're able to maintain the standoff. Yet they're not going to invade and take over Russia. Yeah, I don't know. I think stalemate until Putin is gone is probably the best case scenario. Unless we can convince Ukraine to a peace treaty that includes some lost territory, but also safety guarantees from Europe, America, coalition of other governments and militaries and shit like that. Hugo Banda says, who would you like as the next Democratic president? I never wish cast for 28, especially when we've got midterms coming up in 26. Adrian says, Crockett or Tallarico in the primaries. So, caveat, I do not live in Texas, so my opinion doesn't really matter. I kind of like Tallarico a little bit more than Crockett, just because I think being a pastor, we need a little bit more politics of inclusion, especially in Texas. Whereas I think Jasmine Crockett's value is that she's a fighter. She's a great messenger. Again, I don't think that Texas can do wrong with either choice. I maybe come down a little bit more on the Tallarico side. Penis Producer says, thoughts on Trump wanting out of NATO? It is so funny to get these great substantive questions from somebody named Penis Producer. So Trump, for many of his activities in politics, appears to be acting as an agent for the Russian government. I'm not claiming that he is an agent for the Russian government. I'm just saying that if he was, he would be doing the exact same shit that he's doing now. And part of that goal is dismantling NATO because Russia does not like NATO. There's sort of like a grander super objective for Trump trying to disband, coalitions of democratic governments, because every authoritarian is more secure in their position if there are other authoritarians out there. So Putin is good for, Trump. What's his name in Argentina? Milei is good for other autocrats like Trump. All right, and Ms. Weaver and Triska Fawn, thank you so much for helping me reach my fourth gift goal of the day. DD says, what are your thoughts on RFK Jr. wanting to use psilocybin as medication? Is that something that he has said? I find that very hard to believe. I can't speak too much about that because otherwise my channel gets reported for discussing adult themes. I will just say that I do not believe that the political party that is refusing to reschedule gardening is going to be cool with psilocybin. Kitschy says, what's your opinion on this administration's actions relating to Venezuela? Warmongering, saber rattling, stupid, escalatory, antagonizing regime change war. Bad, bad, bad. Bad for everybody. Only good for Trump, only good for the Republican Party, only good for Marco Rubio, only good for Trump's billionaire buddies in the fossil fuel industry. It's stupid. It is reckless. It is illegal. Yeah, I can't say enough negative things about it. Okay. Nick Fuentes said Tucker Carlson does this thing where he says, I'm just a stupid idiot. I don't know what's going on. I'm just asking questions in the form of assertions. Why are you getting mad? Do you agree with Nick on this specific sentiment? So I don't know enough. I don't watch enough Tucker Carlson to know if that's like a regular thing that he does. I believe it is something that he does because Tucker Carlson is a liar and a con artist. And yeah, I just want to encourage more intra-party fighting within the Republican Party. So yeah, Nick Fuentes, fight Tucker Carlson. Vlog Sauce, good to catch you as well. Okay, back into the TikTok comments. No Other Words says, I really don't like to get into politics because it's a distraction from real life. No Other Words, I would say that it is important for everybody to be informed and involved in politics because it is part of our real life. Like the cost of living increases that are about to come down the pike because of actions that the Republican Party made and Donald Trump made are going to have a very real effect on people's lives. And so I think it's really important that people recognize that who you voted for matters. And it can either make your life easier or harder, depending on who those people are. Mia's LV Adventures says, why did they do that with the oil tanker? I don't understand. I don't know what the reason they're saying is, but it could potentially be just they want to steal oil so that Donald Trump's fossil fuel billionaire buddies can be richer. It's also escalatory. Like they are bullying Venezuela into doing something to declare war so that we can get boots on the ground and do another stupid regime change war. Atheist Mando says, how should America deconstruct this imperialist grasp on the global south? Well, first we need to vote for politicians that are not hawkish about South America. We need to have adults that are capable of doing diplomacy and soft power. Okay. Taylor says, yeah, all right, Berenstein, that's an anti-Semitic dog whistle, so we're going to go ahead and block you. No Other Word says, have an age limit on politicians. I'm for that also. Lee says 90 million don't vote. I agree, Lee. That is a huge problem. I believe the number is closer to 85 million, but, we're splitting hairs here. I agree. More people should vote. 3 Oakley 2 says, adults. What a novel idea. I know, right? Peter's producer says, have you seen Russia has stationed in Moldova for attacking Ukraine, and can it be taken as escalation? That's a little over my head, unfortunately. So I cannot speak too much about that. Sophia says, if pro-choicers don't consider the fetus to be a baby, yet then what criteria defines personhood for you? So for me, it's whether or not the fetus can survive outside of the womb. There is no way that we can compel somebody to, keep somebody else alive with their own body and organs. And so part of the reason why I'm pro-choice is that I do not believe that if, I have a liver and you need a liver, that I should be compelled to give it to you. It would be a really nice thing for me to do, but you can't force me to do that. The same reason that we cannot force a woman to sacrifice her time and body and energy and vital organs to producing a child. If that child can survive outside of the womb, then, let's have a cesarean, and then the baby and the mother can go their separate ways. Yeah, that's what I would say. Viability, that's the key. That's the key. So I got reported again for harassment and bullying, which is, again, guys, can somebody point me to it? We don't. Is the harassment and the bullying in the room with us right now, guys? So yeah, we got about 10 minutes left on the live stream. I don't know if it's worth it to start and restart again. What time is it? Yeah, I'm probably not going to start and restart again. Okay, 1974 Ford Pinto Wiggins says, can't grant rights to a fetus without usurping the rights of the mother. Yeah, that seems like a pretty accurate statement to me. Sophia says, but scientifically, life starts conception, so by definition, wouldn't abortion be taking a life? I don't know, Sophia. I don't know if science agrees that life starts at conception. I think that certain people disagree on what constitutes life. Some people might think a heartbeat is life. Some people might think that brainwave activity is life. I personally believe that being able to survive outside of a womb means life. So yeah, I mean, Sophia, I can appreciate that you have this belief. Potentially, it is based on how you were raised. Potentially, it's based on your religion. But I think that this issue politically has a lot less to do with whether or not abortion means that you're taking a life, but what is the policy that we could institute that would be both fair to the people who don't believe that abortion is taking a life, um, and the people that want to have fewer or zero abortions. Like, how can we exist together in this country, you and I? And my compromise, the thing that I think is the way to do it, is why don't we institute policies that prevent accidental pregnancies and that make it so that people don't feel like they can't afford to have children? And then we'll see abortion rates decline just based off of that right there, you know? And if that's still too many abortions for you, then I think that you should do the work of trying to convince people that abortion is murder. But I don't think that you should be able to force people to not get abortions. Try to do the work of convincing. That's what politics is. What do you think about that, Sophia? Let me know. Because we discussed last time about how abortion bans don't really work. They just make pregnancy more dangerous for women. Do you remember us chatting about that? Am I misremembering? Did you not hear that? Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my most recent gift goal. All right, let's see here. All right. Super Smash B says it's not a topic you should base your vote around. I mean, I don't know if we're able to say what is or is not an appropriate way to base your votes. I think so long as you're voting, if maybe you have a specific reason that drives you to the polls. I don't know if I have the authority to tell you which are issues you can or cannot vote on. If somebody was voting based on abortion, but they were voting for Democrats based on abortion because they're pro-choice, would you similarly have a problem with that? Ron Jeremy says 400,000 Black Americans get aborted annually in the USA. Okay, Ron Jeremy, do you think that means that we should have abortion bans that make pregnancy a lot more dangerous for Black women? So now we're also aborting the fetus and the mother? Is that like a better system, do you think, Ron? No Other Words says, if I upset you, then that means you're probably wrong about something because I live off of fact. I don't know what you said that you think I got upset by. No Other Words. Memes and Dreams says, you can base your vote off of support for the cancerous state of Israel. I mean, I just don't think that you should be voting for people that aren't standing up to Israel. I don't know if that should be the only reason why you vote. I think there are a lot of reasons that can drive somebody to the polls. It could be a melange. It could be one reason. I think if you're a single issue voter, it's probably more likely that you will get tricked by somebody just telling you what you want to hear. But I also am not going to tell you what are and are not the correct reasons to vote. Taylor's version says, I think the bleach is getting too Sophia. Come on, no, we're not doing that here, Taylor. Come on. She's here in good faith. We are discussing. We're not fucking making fun of people, okay? That's not what we do here. Okay, Misty Lane says, we can debate whether or not when it was appropriate to call it a G-side, but now the UN has made it a fact, not an opinion, so what now? I mean, there are so many organizations that have said this is a G-side, and now the UN is agreeing. So, all right, yeah. I mean, I have been convinced for a long time that it was a G-side. Uncle Hippie says, is a blood-sucking tick life or not? I mean, I think it is. It's alive. It's out there in the world. Let's see here. 1974 says she's not here in good faith. Yeah, she is. She's only asked very nice questions to me. Okay, let's see here. No Other Words says, I really think that there's two groups of people, one from our reality and this reality's people. No Other Words, I have no idea what you're trying to say. Are you trying to say that I am not living in reality? Do you think I've said things that are inaccurate? Let me know. Okay. Mia's LV Adventure says, Christian people are pro-birth, not pro-life. Once the babies are here, they could care less. Not every Christian, but I would say that a lot of people on the political right feel that way. Okay. No Other Word says, I grew up in foster care and I still don't believe in abortion. You think that abortion is wrong? No Other Words? Then don't get one. Okay. Let's see here. Atheist Mando says, solve poverty if you want to solve abortions. Abso-fucking-lutely, Atheist Mando. I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want a war on terror. I don't want a war on immigrants. I don't want a war on drugs. I want a war on poverty. I want a war on high costs of living. I want a war on people not starving to death or not being able to get medical treatment because they can't afford it, or not being able to have a place to live because they can't afford it. That's the war that I want. And I guarantee you that those other wars will be a lot easier to win if we can solve that war fucking first. Alrighty. Let's see here. Can't Pray Me Away says, how can we protect our trans siblings in this administration? I mean, just do the work, make sure that you are there for them. Make sure that you are supporting organizations that offer support to the LGBTQ community, etc. Okay, Can't Pray Me Away says, would a war on poverty even work? The other wars keep failing. Just because some wars have failed does not mean that all wars are bad. Okay, No Other Words says, explains why people are so confused about how weird people are. No, there's been a convergence of two worlds. You're not making any sense to me, No Other Worlds. Ask a question. Alrighty, everybody. We are almost at an hour, so get your final questions in. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, for your questions, your comments, your gifts, your likes, your shares. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me, whether it is the paid kind or the freed kind. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. There's a possibility that I will be on jury duty next week, so you're going to have to keep your eyes peeled. My schedule will change on the apps and on my website. I might pop on when I'm done with jury duty. It's you just gotta keep your head on a swivel if you want to catch me. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. I know that we're all struggling, but there are many ways to do that if you like. You can become a super fan on TikTok. You can become a subscriber on Twitch. You can send gifts and shit on, I think, all three of the platforms that I'm streaming on, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. If you are a Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to my Twitch stream using your Amazon Prime. That gives me $2 and it doesn't cost you anything. Let's see here. I also have a Patreon you can join for as little as $1 a month. And I have a store that you can buy things from. Special thanks to Triska and Lauren for being my Amazon Prime Twitch subscribers. Special thanks to super fans on TikTok, Susie, Sean, Dean, and Hot Sauce, and my patrons, Robert, Shane, and Carmine, and Patrick. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, DMs are open. Do not be shy. You can hit me up that way. You can hit me up via email. You can join my Discord channel. I love the Discord. It's a great resource for getting in touch, for forming community. And also, there are recommendations there for books and podcasts and movies, and not movies, books and podcasts, and great organizations that you can and should be donating your time and money to. Special thanks to Kate the Grateful, Ms. Weaver, and Triska Fawn for helping me reach my final gift goal of the day. I want to be a resource for you guys. I want to be the place that you go to for your questions and for figuring out how to get more involved in politics and activism. So if I can help you out that way, if I can do that work for you, I want to do that work for you. So use me and abuse me. Use me until I am all used up. And lastly, just my heartfelt plea that y'all will do the work, because that is the only way that we get out of this, is if people do the work. Mookman says, thoughts on dodging jury duty? I mean, you can do the legal things, you can try to defer, but why not do things that our government asks us to do? Why not be part of an impartial jury to help potentially bring justice? I know it's a pain in the ass. I don't like going down there and hanging out all day. I've never been, on a trial. But I always go down, and I'm always like, yeah, I'll be a juror if you want me to be a juror. You don't want me? All right, I'm out of here then, I guess. All right. Let's see here. That looks like questions have kind of slowed down here. Not showing my pretty faces because I pay $12 a day for jury duty, and for self-employed, time is money. Yeah, I wonder if you can say like I can't afford to do this because I am a freelancer. So I don't know. I don't know. All right, yeah. Looks like we're done today, everybody. Thank you so much again. I certainly hope that. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if my friend Sophia responded to any of my abortion stuff. Yeah, that seems like it. All right, everybody. At least not in North Carolina. I'm really sorry to hear that. Not showing my pretty face. But yeah. Oh, all right. Then. I will see you guys tomorrow. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Self care is parts of the work. And yeah, catch me here tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have an excellent rest of your Thursday, everybody. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.